Hi guys, welcome to my channel again. This is Joe, and in this video we're going to be building an AI virtual assistant using Python, Django, and the OpenAI API. So this virtual assistant is similar to what you have at ChatGPT, Cloud, and all the other chat model. So with the virtual assistant, you'll be able to interact with the OpenAI API, ask questions, query the AI, and then it's going to respond to you like a virtual assistant. Okay, so this is going to be like a personal virtual assistant for you. Okay, and you can also customize this to suit various purposes or a specific purpose that you have in mind. So to get started, what we're going to do is to create a folder to house our project. So I'm going to create a new folder and just call it virtual assistant. Okay, now the next thing I want to do is to set up a virtual environment. I usually recommend setting up a virtual environment whenever you're starting a project. It is very, very important. It helps you to separate various packages and environment for the various projects that you're building. That way you won't have conflicts in your project. So it is an industry standard, and I recommend that you always do this. To set up the virtual environment, I'll be making use of Venv. If you don't have Venv installed on your computer, you can go to Google, search for Venv, and then you'll find it here, Python Venv. You can install it into your computer and then use it to create a virtual environment. So I'm going to do Python 3-m Venv, and then I'm going to call it virtual. So the next thing is I'm going to activate my virtual environment by doing source virtual /bin/activate. So now, as you can see, there's a virtual text here, which shows that I'm now in my virtual environment. So everything I do when I install a package, when I do anything right now, I'm doing it right inside the virtual environment. So once this is done, the next thing we want to do is we want to install Django and OpenAI, which are the two things I will be using for this tutorial. So I'm going to do pip install Django OpenAI. So this is going to take about 30 seconds or so, and then you're going to have both Django and OpenAI installed in our virtual environment. Okay, now we have both installed. So the next thing we want to do is we want to start a new project, because this is a new app. So in Django, you have to create a project when you are building your app. So the first thing we're going to do is Django API start project, and then we're going to call the project assistant underscore project, and then I'm going to put a dot. Take note of the dot. So this dot will make sure that Django places the management file, the manage.py file, in the root folder. That way it's easy for me to run my Django project. So this is how I do mine. Some people don't use the dot, but I prefer using the dot. So when I hit enter, what's going on? The command, okay, Django admin. Oh, there's no space, sorry. Okay, start project assistant, cool. So now when I check my folder here, you will see a folder called assistant, and then you see the manage.py file out there. So the next thing we want to do is I want to create an app that is going to house the code for this virtual assistant. So I'm going to do manage.py start app, and I'm going to call this AI underscore assistant. Okay, now let's go back and check the folder. We have another folder here called AI underscore assistant. So next thing is to open this in your code editor, and then we can start coding. So I use VS Code, so I'm going to do code dot, and this is going to open the whole directory in VS Code. Okay, so before we jump into writing the code, we need to do some configuration in the settings file. So I'm going to go to the settings file, and I'm going to add the new app to the installed app. So the app is called AI underscore assistant. Okay, so now I'm going to register this here. So now Django will be able to find the app for our project and be able to read the code and do every other thing that it needs to do. Then the next thing we want to do is the template. We want to make sure that Django is able to find the template. So I'm going to do base dir and then doing template. So now it's going to check all the templates folder in our base directory, in our root directory, and then we'll be able to find all those files. So the next thing also is to set up the static files directory. So I'm going to do static files. That's called dirs. Okay. Which is equals. So I'm going to do base dir slash static. So this is going to be small letter static. So this will allow Django to find the static files. Okay. So next thing we can do is we can put our OpenAI API key here, OpenAI underscore API underscore key right here, and then you can put it in your settings, your API key. But the best thing to do is to put it in a virtual environment. So you can come here, create a file called .env, and then you are going to put this in your .env. So you can reference this from the environment as an environment variable, and then you can use it in your project. Okay, so let's just leave it right here. So now we are done with the settings for the Django project. The next thing is to actually start building our app. So we're going to go into the views of the app inside AI Assistant, and then we're going to import OpenAI and some other things that we need. So I'm going to import settings here. This should be import, and then this should be import open. Come on, what's with the typo? Import. Okay, we're good to go. So I'm going to create a function called index, which is going to take a request. Okay, and then if the request dot method is equal to post, then the user input is equal to request dot post dot get the user input. So the way our app is going to work is this. We're going to have a form on the front end, which we're going to use to interact with your virtual assistant. So usually you're going to ask questions, and then you're going to submit that form, which is going to be a post request. And then this is going to come to the view where we will grab the user input and then send that to the OpenAI API, which is going to send us back a response, which is going to be displayed to you on the front end. Okay, so now that we have this, the next thing we want to do is to send the user input to OpenAI. So you can do OpenAI dot chat completion dot create. You don't have to memorize this. You can find this in the OpenAI documentation. So I'm going to choose a model. My model will be GPT-4o mini, which is cost effective. And then we're going to attach messages, which is a list of dictionaries. And then here we're going to have our role, which is a system, to give it a system prompt. Okay, then what's the content of this? It's gonna be, you are a helpful virtual assistant. So now we're giving it a system prompt that says a helpful virtual assistant. So this is just to create a context for the AI to know what it's doing, and it's going to be able to return a response using that context. So the content of the user input will be sent as the role user. Okay, so now it knows that anything in this particular message is coming from the user, and it's supposed to respond to it. Now with that done, we're going to do final response. So what happens is when you send a request to OpenAI sends a bunch of stuffs alongside with the request. So you have to filter it out to get the message, which is the main thing that we need from the whole list of data in the response. So we're going to get this. And then I'm going to create a context, which we're going to pass to our front end, which is going to be a dictionaries of value, which is going to be something like user underscore input, which is now going to be user input. And then we're going to have our response, which is going to be final response. Okay, so now we're going to return render our request. Then we need to pick a template, which is going to be index.html, and then we're going to pass in the context. So now our view is ready. In this view, we sent a request to the OpenAI API. We chose our model, we set the system prompt, and then we sent along the user input. But there's something missing that we have not done. If we try to do this or make a request with this, we're going to get an error. And what we need to do is we need to set the OpenAI API key, which is equal to settings dot open. Remember, we actually set this. Yeah, so it's going to be settings.openai API key. Okay, so now we are done with the views. So the next thing we want to do is to set up our URLs. So we're going to create a file called urls.py, and here we're going to do some importing. Okay, import part from dot import views. So we're going to create a URL pattern part. Okay, then our view dot index, the name is equals to, let's say, AI assistant. So now this URL is going to control our view, and then we'll be able to route the data to where it's supposed to go. So now we need to register this in the project URL. So you're going to come to assistant_project, and then you click on urls.py, and we're going to import that and register it in this project URL. So I'm going to import include so that we can include the new URL, and then we're going to have something like path okay, home, which means the empty quote means home. We're going to call this and use this as the AI underscore assistant .urls. Okay, now if we go here and we do python manage.py run server 8007, we open this and we come here. Okay, Yeah, I know what's going on. The templates, we have not created our templates, so it's unable to find the templates. But then as you can see, the page is loading. So let's go back here and create a template. So inside our app, AI underscore assistant, I'm going to create a new folder called templates. Okay. So in my folder called templates, I'm going to create a template called index.html. Remember, in our view, we have index.html. So I'm going to create this. So very quickly, I'll just do something here. Okay, so I copy pasted this to save time. So this is basic HTML, the title, then we are loading static in the head. There's a link to a CSS, which we're going to add later on. And then the body, there's an heading, and then we have all of this. So let me refresh this. Okay, this error is coming from, let me see, return render request. This is HTML. Okay. Okay. Return. Okay. I think this should fix that. Yeah, cool. So that is fixed. Now we have, you can say, chatbot box here, a text box where you can put your stuff and then you can send a message. But this is not looking good, so we're going to up this. I'm going to improve this by adding some CSS styling. Okay, you can actually use Bootstrap to make this better. You can add a Bootstrap link here if you don't want to use a custom CSS, and then you can style this with Bootstrap. Okay, but nevertheless, let's use some CSS. So we're going to go into the static folder. In Django, your CSS has to stay in the static folder. So what we're going to do is we're going to create one, and then we're going to set up our CSS there. So I'm going to create static, and inside static, I'm going to create another folder called CSS, and there I'm going to create style.css inside this. Now I'm just going to copy and paste the CSS styling. Okay, so here is the CSS styling. Okay, I think I'm going to change this to maybe red. I'm gonna just change all of this to red. Okay, let's see how that looks. Now I'm going to refresh this, and then we should see some changes. Okay, virtual assistant dashboard. Let me go to index. I'm gonna make some edits. Okay, so I think this looks much more better, right? So now we can put something here, ask like, what is today's date, and send. Okay, there's a little bit of issue. OpenAI the chat completion, but it's no longer supported. Okay. Oh, okay. I think there's a little mistake with the OpenAI stuff, which I'm going to fix. Let me check the docs. Okay, so minor changes is just like what we had earlier. So this is supposed to be openai.chat.completions.create. Okay, so with this, I've set the model. Everything is the way it was. I only updated this. Okay, so now let's go back to our app. As you can see, the virtual assistant is working. I think the last date it remembers this date. So I'm going to do what is 600 divided by 12. 600 divided by 12 equals 50. Okay, who won the last World Cup? So the AI's knowledge is stopped at October 2023. So it says Argentina won the World Cup. Now let's change the model. There's a new model called GPT 4, I think it's 4.1 mini. Yep, 4.1 mini. Okay, let me see what we get with 4.1 mini. I think 4.1 mini is the latest model, so it should have much more recent data. Oh, the one word in 2022 was run by Argentina. That was interesting. So basically, this is our AI virtual assistant. You can interact with this. You can send various messages, ask the virtual assistant to perform tasks, and it's going to respond to you, just like what you get when you use chat models like Chat GPT, Cloud, or DeepSeek. So what we have here is just a basic setup. If you want to continue development of these, you can add features like conversation history, user authentication. You can also integrate with other external APIs to make it perform other functionalities. Okay, so this is just a basic setup. You can work on these, improve these, and make it bigger and better. And I hope you've learned one or two things from this video. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comment section. I'm going to look at it and also respond to it as quick as possible. Thank you guys for watching, and see you in the next one.